Welcome to another Coffee with Samso. Today I've got Riedel Resources Limited here. ASX code is RIE. Market cap at the moment is about 8.25 million and the share price is 0.5 cents. I got Mike Bohm here, who's the chair, and David Groombridge, who's the newly appointed CEO, who is a geologist. Riedel is a company with the Kingman Project in the US. Has historic gold and silver. Mike, you've been on Coffee Samso previously, and we've had conversations. I guess a bit of a changing of the guard in terms of direction. Is this where it's headed?
No, not a changing of the guard. Obviously David's joined us as the CEO, and we're about to start drilling, so we thought we'd come and give you an update, but still very much focused on our high-grade Kingman Gold Project in Arizona, just north of Kingman. And we've done, as you know, a lot of work in the last couple of years, been on before drilling, RC and diamond, and so just an update opportunity to come and update on what's happening.
Okay. Look, in previous conversation, I've been really keen. I mean, it's high grade. I mean, every time high grade is good. In the States, it's a good jurisdiction. You guys have been there for a few years now. Is there something that you've learned that you didn't know before, or much about the same?
No, I guess the overwhelming theme for us is just how interesting a jurisdiction it is. I mean, we all know it's a first world jurisdiction and there's lots of infrastructure and all those positive things. I think I've said it before, it's underexplored for a number of reasons, which I could go on about, but there is certainly opportunities there that if they'd been in the goldfields here in Western Australia, they would have been mined out 20, 30 years ago. And I think David and I had a brief conversation when David did his first site visit a couple of months ago. And I think that was your overarching opinion too, some of the stuff you saw, David.
There's a lot of old historic workings just sticking out the ground, and there's no pits, there's no real mining that's been done since the Second World War. So it's really a lot of virgin territory in a lot of respects in the area for exploration in the area, yeah.
I mean, your history, I'm looking at your bio. I mean, multiple years, you worked in lots of commodities. And then you look at the Western US part, we got a myriad of different types of mineralization. How do you bring from your previous work, how do you bring that and see Kingman, right? Do you think it's something unique in that sense, or just, steady as it goes, this is an easy sort of time drill, get the results?
It's a very interesting part of the world. It's part of that Arizona copper moly belt. There's a lot of copper that comes out of Arizona, and as part of those porphyry systems, you do get a lot of epithermal, intermediate sulfidation, which is gold, silver, base metals. There's some older mineralisation, which is Proterozoic, I think, which is VMS, so New World Resources are just down the road from Kingman. They've got a high-grade copper deposit down there. There's lots of pegmatites in the area, and then you go into Nevada and you've got the whole Carlin trend, and further north you go into Utah, you've got Bingham Canyon, which is a different porphyry system as well. So you've got these multiple different copper gold flavour events within the area, but the high-grade nature of the Kingman project is very exciting, yeah.
When people look at, I mean, when a lot of people, I have lots of conversation with people, and they seem to say have different styles, but when you're and I always say, look, you need to be at a mineral system stage. Look at the mineral system. If the mineral system is there, the rest is, not say easy, but you're going to be able to find things. Being at the western margin there, that's obviously the subduction zone, and you've just mentioned about 5-6 different types of mineralization styles, commodities. It's near the mecca of these kind of things, right? Everything pops up there. You got down the road, you got a porphyry system. As you said, New World's got a VMS system down there, high grade as well. Can you see similarities in your area?
Definitely the porphyry, because Mineral Park, which is 6 kilometres, 7 kilometres to the south of our Tintic deposit, that's a copper moly porphyry, and it's sticking out of the ground. It's been mined for close to 100 years, or
On
probably
and off.
longer, on and off. So we know that there's a porphyry sticking out of the ground, and we know from all the work that Dick Silito and the USGS have done on porphyries over the years, that you get these radiating mineralisation styles. And where Tintic is, it's perfect for a structurally hosted, high grade lead silver with base metal flavour. So you know that from the mineral system, you're in the right area, and that's what you would be looking for. And further afield, you've got other differing styles, but generally that area where we are, it's the porphyry, but we're around the porphyry. So yeah.
But the interesting aspect also is that, as you know now, because of my previous visits to your couch, we've drilled a lot of holes there now at Tintic. So there's a bigger picture, longer term story on the property, because we've got about roughly the overall package is about 10 kilometres long. And our focus, being a junior in this market, has been on the shallow high grade. And where we've drilled at Tintic, it's just very shallow, very high grade gold and silver with lead and zinc as well. And our focus has been on, all right, we're a junior, market cap, not very much. Let's go and focus on the shallow high grade mineralisation, which is what we've been doing. David joined us and went, what about all this other stuff?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
there's a conversation we're continually having about focusing on that which will get us into production quickly, and then the medium to longer term stuff, which could be another prize altogether. So it's trying to strike that balance, because I think I've mentioned to you before, we're not looking to build a processing plant here. We're not looking to build tailings dams here. We want to dig shallow open pits to start with. You cut way down on capital costs. The permitting process is completely different. So that's part of our model here, just fast track production, but not forgetting. And now that David's joined us as CEO and is a geologist, and there was method in our thinking there, that what else have we got here?
I mean, when we look at Tintic and obviously the sections that you had put it out, and obviously being a geo, you're going to look at it, and I mean, the high grade is there, it's flat lying, and then you think about, oh, what about the others? So are you, what the move step forward now, is it chasing that gold part first while you're looking at the others? Is that the strategy?
Definitely chasing the high grade gold is the strategy to start with. And the diamond programs have shown that we've got good structural control of understanding what Tintic is doing, and it's associated with the main foliation of the host rock, which is a Proterozoic gneiss, and then these gabbro dikes that come through, and the mineralisation is closely associated with those. There's some magnetic surveys across the claims which show the gabbros, quite obvious, nice features to target for exploration. But that's the main focus to start with. And then as you put more and more holes into the project, you're going to find different things. And that's where these other opportunities will start up. But there's still another dozen historical workings within the claims which are high grade gold and silver, and they haven't really been tested either. So that would be the main focus. Can you get another resource on these other deposits and add it to that trucking model? So you have Tintic first, and then you'd lead into something else over time.
I can say we had a board meeting this morning, and we were talking about the upcoming drill program, which starts in a couple of weeks. And most of our drill holes are 50 to 100 metres deep, but I know David's got a couple of deeper ones in his back pocket, drilling some of the
Yeah.
other targets.
I think first time we spoke, I asked the question: is this the P word was very close, or the VMS word? Because you can't help but see it when you look at the map, right? You're literally 6 k's away from a porphyry and New World's down the road, and I've had New World sitting on this couch here as well, and it looks fabulous. The geology.
Yeah, a good analogy is to say that gold is not iron ore or coal. It's not a continuous grade which just keeps going forever and ever. You do get higher grade zones, but then you could have a drill hole, a nice big nugget here, and you could drill right next to it and not hit it. And that's the nature of gold. So calling it spotty, as long as you've got that continuous mineralisation, you've got all the minerals there. If you're still hitting the vein, whilst you're not getting the higher grades, you know that geologically you're still in the same system and it's still there. So you have to take a lot of confidence from that, and sometimes not let the grades kind of get in the way of what is actually a good system. And that's what this area seems to be, yeah.
What is interesting also is that you'll have a hole that'll be 80, 100 grams a tonne, and then you look either side of it and there'll be a hole that's 10 to 30 grams a tonne. Compared to the 100, they look low, but 10,
Yeah.
10 to 30 is not low.
No, I asked that question because a lot of people ask me that, and I learned this when I was with Silver Lake. Being an exploration geo, you don't deal with mining, and mining when you're stuck at half a meter at 50 grams, that's mineable, that kind of stuff. So, and it's something that people don't get. A lot of people who look at it and say, "Oh, it's only half a meter," or "It's only a meter, or 1 meter at this." They don't think that 1 meter at 100 grams or 1 meter at 20 grams it's a mineable portion, right?
Quite often at Daisy Milano, it's the vein's only this wide and it's going at really good grade, and you can get in there
Yeah,
with mechanised mining and make some good money from it. So
And that's underground.
yeah, it's underground.
And we're talking open pit.
Yeah.
no, I remember. So I was fortunate enough to be involved in their listing, which was 2008, and a lot of people say, "Oh, that's nothing in there," and etc. etc. And today they're still going, right?
Yep.
And they're still down at Daisy.
Yep.
So, and that's why I try and explain to people that it's it's not what you see sometimes. Those little things, they make a big difference.
Yep.
Make a big difference. Like when you see those 20 grammars and half a meter, it can work.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah. So look, we all know exploration's a long game. I mean, Mike, you've been around for very wise man, as they say. How do you weigh up? Funding's hard. We all know.
Yep.
How do you weigh all that out? Capital markets not the best at the moment. But I keep telling people this is what we deal with all the time. The last 2 years was a holiday.
Yep.
So how do you share that thought with people?
Well, good markets come and good markets go. Bad markets come and bad markets go. It is tough right now. We all know that. Tends to be commodity specific. I also think that there's an appreciation that finding in the old traditional way of finding something and taking 7 years to get into production, that might still be the model, but that's a long time in investors' profiles, if you like. And I guess one of the things that really excites me about our project, Kingman, is that the thing that takes the most time and the most money is building a plant and getting the financing for a plant and getting it permitted. And that's why this model we're using, that we're proposing to use, where we don't build a plant, we don't build a tailings dam. Our high grade is within 5 meters of surface. So if we can get in there and get a resource by Christmas, and I'll let David talk to that a little bit, and look to truck regionally to a processing plant, we immediately take out the capital cost for processing plant and tailings dam and the permitting aspects of a processing plant and tailings dam. So that's how we tackle it, because we aren't going to be looking for tens of millions of dollars to put this thing into production. We're talking about a digger, 3 or 4 trucks, a small crew, and away we go.
And that's the fantastic thing about gold, right? Because it's the value, and when you got a chunk of gold, it's actually extremely valuable, whereas a chunk of iron ore is bulk. I think that's quite something that people need to understand, because the lithium world, everything's lithium, right? But they forget that gold just works. I keep telling people mining gold is like making noodles. It's just it just happened.
And you don't have to negotiate a marketing or offtake agreement.
Yep.
You pour your gold bar and you get paid the next day.
Yeah. And how is that? I mean, in the US, is that easy to do? Is there issues about that kind of stuff?
In what kind of
In
stuff?
terms of digging it up and just shipping?
It's like anywhere. You apply for a permit, but if you're not building a processing plant and you're not proposing to build a tailings dam, that takes 2 of your biggest costs and your biggest on-ground impacts out of the equation. So if you can take it somewhere else and utilise existing infrastructure, I mean, that can only be a good thing for everyone. So no, the permitting process exists in the US, and we'll follow that process. We've actually just started by getting our baseline environmental data. So we've just collected all of our spring data in the last couple of months. So we've had environmental consultants on the ground collecting baseline data, and that will be used to put together to put our submissions in, and we'll go through the process that everyone else has to go through.
You mentioned there's a resource coming out. Can you run that through for us?
So the drilling that's been done to date has got really well defined where the mineralisation is at Tintic and at Jims, and the upcoming drill program of approximately 7,000 metres, we're kind of looking to infill it and flesh it out. And that process, by the time we do the drilling, do the modelling, do the resource, we're targeting November, with the end of November to be when we release it. So that's the time frame, the amount of meters that are going to go into it, and the work that's going to lead into it. And then off the back of that, that'll lead into the permitting, which we would hope to get in by the end of this year, or if not, the worst, early next year. Yeah.
And that's why we've done the environmental baseline work now, rather than waiting a year for the next spring. We've actually gone in there and identified the areas where our mineralisation is, and a broader area, and we're collecting data there that we can use in our submission after we've finished the resource, because it really is a very simple model, as you can imagine. We don't have to build camps because we've got a big town, 25,000 people in Kingman, roads, infrastructure, so no camps, no bore fields, no tailings dams, no processing plants. It'll be a very simple, straightforward operation.
Someone will going to watch this and say, sounds like there's no downside. Can't happen. So what would keep you two awake at night? Potentially.
Oh, there's plenty of things to keep people awake at night, Noel.
Damien Hardwick leaving the Tigers, that's keeping me awake at the moment.
Melbourne losing to Port last weekend.
Well, let's stick to Kingman.
Yeah, look, the reality is that if you're dealing with the market and Mother Nature, right? So gold price is absolutely beyond our control, but gold price is pretty good right now.
Yeah,
it
I can't see it going backwards.
Well, it's in a pretty good spot right now. Geology is geology. We're now up to our 6th drill program, and we've done 2 diamond programs. So our understanding of the mineralisation, I had this view that you never really understand it until you mine the last ton of ore out of your mine. But our understanding is pretty good now. We spent a lot of time and money to date getting to understand it, and we're still learning about Tintic. Right, the rest is still out there. So, but there can always be surprises that come out of that. Metallurgy is something that we don't have much information on right now, or any really. But we've started that process. So we've got sample in a laboratory from, I think, 5 or 6 holes, David, in the laboratory up in ALS in Kamloops, up in Canada. And it's preliminary, but we're looking at the usual metallurgical aspects to see what might be there. So it doesn't keep me awake at night, but as a project manager, these are the things that we need to do to take it through to the next phases. Because when we start talking to people who have processing plants, one of the first questions will be, well, what's your flow sheet look like, do you think? Your metallurgical flow sheet. So, that work is commenced, is underway. Look, the permitting process, you always got to be a bit careful. We're in an area that we don't believe is tremendously sensitive. We're not in a state forest. We're in an area that's been mined previously, and so that has quite an impact on the environment. There's a lot of cattle grazing on that area. So in fact, Tintic, where we're drilling, is being heavily impacted by cattle. So environmentally, again, there's always things that we need to consider, and we've engaged first-class consultants out of the US who do this all the time to guide us through the process. And so that process we've got to go through. Outside of that, how big could it be? But that's a positive for me. Did I miss anything?
I don't think so. No.
I think that's, fair call. I mean, obviously, you never know. A ghost bat could come out of somewhere, but unlikely. Historically, you've had all the workings there. That's where you've got all the historical workings on your site, I guess.
Arizona is a mining state. It's a bit like Western Australia. This isn't a new frontier for mining. It's got, well over a century of established mining from north to south, right across the state. So, people in Arizona, they get mining.
Going forward, news flow for guys out there. I mean, we've gone through a fair bit there. We know the drilling's going to happen. So, what can you list out? What potential news flow would be?
Lots. I'll let David go
So obviously you have the drilling and the how it's progressing, when the assays start coming through. We're looking to expand some rock chip and mapping of the areas of the claims. So that'll be an ongoing story there. We have some more ground magnetics, which we're looking to engage at some point. We'll have metallurgy updates. We'll have, what else?
Yeah, I think
That's about it.
You've
and
covered
then
most of it.
that'll cover us all the way until
Drilling, assays,
the resource.
metallurgy. The big one, of course, is the resource towards the end of the year. But we see a lot of news flow between now and then, because 7,000 metre program. It's going to take us 2.5 months. So there's a lot that'll come out of that. How many holes roughly, David? 100 and
just over 100 holes.
Over 100.
Yeah.
So we're not going to wait till the end to put out 100 holes. Obviously, we'll have continuous disclosure obligations.
Yep.
So I would see that we would be announcing the batches as they come in. So when we've batched up a group of holes, we'll ship them off to our labs. When those results come in, we'll release them. I'm really excited about the broader potential outside of Tintic. We've got a lot of holes in Tintic. There's a lot of high grade there. But when you look at all the work we've done over the last 4 years, everywhere we've sampled from the south to the north, everywhere we've sampled outcrop, we've got lots of gold, silver, lead, zinc mineralisation. And so we're going to follow that up as well and match that to the geophysics. I think people will really be surprised and impressed by how that all just hangs together, noting that the only place we've really drilled, we've just had tremendous success rate. So it's 6 to 8 months.
I remember the very first time I looked at you guys, I was sold by the high grade of the intercept, because being in the industry for so long, you don't see that very often. And looking at your market cap, 8 mil, by virtue of the fact that everyone's share price is down, the downside's been narrowed. You can't claim to be unique because everyone's in the same boat. However, the prospectivity is still the same. And I keep telling people the market is, if you look at the market today as compared to 2015, share price may be down, but the commodity price are not down. 2015, every man in the stock was going down, including oil and gas, which is very rare. So I think it's a good sign. So, on that, who wants to sell their soul and say why buy Riedel?
Well, look, we can both put our 2 bobs worth in. Look, the thing for me is that we're somewhat unique in that whilst we are a junior explorer, we are not that far away from a maiden resource. It's our goal to have that sort of November, December. Then when you look beyond that, because we're not proposing to go and build our own plant, there's no huge capital overlay that's looming ahead for us. And because the high grade that we see, the mineralisation is just below surface, it would literally take a mining engineer, so I'm a bit biased here, give me a digger and a few trucks and we could be mining it into that mineralisation within weeks. So the opportunity to then turn that into cash flow, which is the nirvana, in a short time frame, is is something that's available to us that, it may not be available to others. So for me, that's the short-term pitch. Longer term, this area was mined back in the 40s, and since then it just hasn't been touched. We're talking 1940s. So the opportunity for David and his team to unlock the bigger picture, I think is terrific.
And I would say that we've got gold that's in the right rocks, in the right place. You've got a good jurisdiction, and it's relatively advanced on its way to a resource and then through to mining. So I feel like it's quite advanced, and we're in the right place, and it's quite very geologically interesting. So
David said to me when he came back from his first trip to site back in April, he said, "It's just within the goldfields. It would have been mined 30 years ago."
Oh, yeah.
You're kicking over the vein, like you can see it outcropping at surface.
Even
it's
I can
amazing.
see it.
Yeah.
The mining engineer.
Look, I've always liked your. I mean, obviously things takes time. I like the story. I've always told people that the two main things you need to look for is technical and management. Look, I know Mike for a few years, and he's not a man to be spinning hot air. So yeah, I think guys, you should reach out to these guys and ask them all the questions you need.
Feel free.
A good way to end. I think Sandra has shortchanged you guys. She's only given you a pack of coffee each. It's this time where I work with Florence Drummond. She's worked with this group called KIK, K-I-K, and they're a group of Indigenous businesses that try and support our industry. And they're kind enough to give me free coffee to give you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So the coffee is all yours, and we'll hopefully follow the journey till the next time.
And
Stay tuned.
Thank you for having us on, and thank you for everyone who tunes in and listens. It's always good to come in and chat.
Next time we'll pick a time of the day where you guys are not overexposed.
Facing the sun.
But anyway, thank you, and we'll talk next time.
Terrific. Thanks, Sandra. Cheers.